people who have been rejected, they are more prone to suicide, they are more prone to depression, they are more prone to drug use.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Noble TV Live. I am Gray Admona, and today we are treating you to a very interesting area too, the life of the family. And our guest is Pastor Mrs. Margaret Anizo. You're very much welcome, madam.
Thank you.
We're looking at parents' trauma cases, and how they affect their children. And you're welcome, madam.
Thank you, sir.
So it's a very, yes, the prefix suggests clearly that you have, there's something basically religious about your background.
Yes.
It's an interesting one. These days of the increasing importance of the church, in the corporate life of society, that when we come across that prefix, we're always deferring to you because you take care of our spiritual lives.
Yeah.
So in this case, we want you to educate the viewership on how parents' trauma cases, how they impact on the emotional, psychological, and other aspects of the lives of their children. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say that childhood trauma is something that is very common, and oftentimes people do not heal from it, and so they go into adulthood not healed of the traumas.
Been haunted by them.
Yes. Okay. And trauma can affect people psychologically, emotionally, and all round. Okay. Traumas could be due to sexual abuse. It could be due to witness of an accident. There are varying forms of trauma.
Yes.
And those things have effect. Sometimes rejection.
Okay.
And actually, people are wounded and broken on the inside and have never received any form of healing. Of those wounds that had been incurred due to sexual abuse, verbal abuse,
violence
generally, witness of accident, or even murder.
Okay.
So they grow up as wounded people.
Yes.
And relate to their children as wounded people who have not themselves been healed of those things.
Yes. Pastor, it's a very interesting scenario actually, because when we talk about trauma, mostly on the side of violence, something that that is fearsome to the individual, and so somehow at the psychic level is transferred to the offspring, the children.
Yes.
So which one do you think is actually more treacherous, more serious for the emotional life of the growing child? As normally, because they come by narrative.
Yes.
If the child is not brought into the picture by the mother or the father, but in this case, I think I suppose it's mostly the mother. No, because do you think your fathers usually have the habit of relating personal fear-causing experiences to the children? Don't you think it's a mother's affair generally?
It has to do with both. Because in fact the father's transference of those things is even more obvious. Because if a child does not enjoy the good relationship with the father, that father figure is very important. So even it's lost in a child growing up, it affects that child immensely. Yes. You notice that a child or an adult who had suffered domestic or witnessed domestic violence as he was growing up, that child grows up very angry, cannot stand stress, is not able to relate with the child as he ought to emotionally, because there is a bottled up anger that has not been dealt with. Yeah.
So how do we assess the consequences of bottled up fears, anxieties, sometimes leading to obsession? How do they impact basically on the stability of the family? First, before we talk about the stability of society, because there's an intricate link between the family and society.
And society.
How do you think it basically causes some kind of ripples in family life?
Well, it causes a lot of ripples in that a man who has undergone or faced some form of trauma as he was growing up, that man may not be able to relate well with the child. And there's this transferred aggression. Anything that reminds him or her of the incident, there's a transferred aggression, either by action or by words. Yes. So those things, it just becomes something transferred over time. And the person may not even understand that there is an unhealed aspect of his life. Until he's spoken to or somebody else tells him this anger is beyond the present incident.
Okay, so madam, thank you for that aspect of the survey now, because you just imply that yes, until someone comes to the rescue, either by personal undertaking or a way to say, let me help my friend out. The victim of that kind of siege, because like a siege, may not know. So can we bring in the psychoanalyst in this respect?
The psychoanalyst can help to an extent, but not sufficient, because there are many things that come into play when one experiences trauma. It opens the person's life to a lot of thoroughfare of things that are beyond the physical. Yes, because if somebody was rejected, as a pastor, I have ministered to people who were rejected when they were young, and some of them, their parents said, "We are not sure you are a child," and they may never know the extent of the trauma and damage that that child has experienced, or has incurred in life. So the person becomes, there's a spirit called spirit of rejection that comes in. So trauma opens people's life to many things. You've heard that people who have been sexually abused, people who have been rejected, they are more prone to suicide, they are more prone to depression, they are more prone to drug use. They are more prone to...
As a defense mechanism.
Yes, as a defense. So the psychoanalyst may be able to advise, but there needs to be a tracing back to where that open door to that brokenness came in. Yes, it's like a child witnessing the mother always being beaten by the father. It affects a person's trust in relationship. So it's not enough. It's not enough.
So you now, in a society that is with the increase in the number of religious institutions, churches, do you think the subject of that kind of problem will be open to psychoanalysis? Because some might feel that this sounds occult, so I may not subscribe to it. There's a way some individuals have some problems, connecting with scientific methods that have some tinge of the abnormal. Let me put it that way. Not everybody may be, open to psychoanalysis. Don't think it will now affect the way the problems will be solved in the long term.
Yes, because in such cases, they may need to put the person on drugs, or they may need to some form of therapy. But it's not
anesthetics.
Yes, so those things are not sufficient that in itself. That's why I said, as a pastor, when you counsel such people, you realize that you are more or less tracing when this thing began. And it's not just the prayer. Sometimes you need to counsel the person. Sometimes the person needs to forgive. Yes. If you were sexually abused and many other things have affected you after that, you need to come to a point where you forgive. Also, if you had witnessed domestic violence, you need to come to a point that you forgive, because unforgiveness makes you trapped to your past. But when you are able to trace, this is what happened, and you are able to forgive, you more or less free yourself from the grip and the trap of your past.
Okay, so in one statement, what do you or rather, what will you advise, with regard to the subject of, trauma, backgrounds, possibly transferring that fear, to the offspring? What will you advise?
I would advise that people take time out to be open for help, because one who was rejected growing up, that cycle can reoccur in your life. But when you are honest enough to say, yes, I was rejected, but I don't want to remain where I was, and I don't want to pass this on to my children, then help is on the way. Yes, so it's important for us to be honest about our experiences in life, and be honest enough to know that, yes, this was not good, and I need help. With that, help is on the way. Yeah.
I'm sure you enjoyed every aspect of this production. We'll be having this talk shop with Pastor Mrs. Margaret Anizo, and they will be looking at the possibility of childhood traumas being transferred, to the offspring by the parents. And she says, whichever way we look at it, it is important for us to own up if we're subjects of such cases, because you cannot actually rule out, the likelihood of being subject to situations of such nature. So thank you very much, madam.
Thank you so much.
Of course, you are used to the cycle. You like, share, and of course subscribe. Noble TV will always come to your help when you need us, and especially cases that have to do with everyday life. Thank you for watching. It is great and honor.